Mena, Arkansas. This is Polk County. I'm not even going to try to pronounce Ouachita Mountains, that region. Uh, you know, Mena is historically significant for multiple reasons, and its racial geography is intertwined with its broader history as a town that operated outside of mainstream institutional oversight. So, before we even get into, they already touching on it. Okay, cool, cool. All right. So I'll continue. I was going to sidetrack, but the shit is already in my research. All right, bet. Um, So Mena has a documented sundown town reputation within the regional black community of the Southwest Arkansas, functioning as a place where black travelers and residents understood that they are unwelcome, particularly after dark. Polk County's black population has been historically suppressed below 1%, consistent with active rather than passive exclusion in a region that borders counties with larger black populations. Mena's notoriety in other contexts, it had a role as a reported transit point in the Iran Contra era as far as drug trafficking allegations and as a position as a hub for anti government militia activities in the 1980s and the 1990s. So, this is just additional context, for institutional culture. A town where law enforcement operated within significant autonomy and where outsiders, particularly black outsiders, face elevated risk. Let that sink in. No single mass expulsion event is well documented for Mena like Harrison, but the cumulative pattern has a near zero black population. It has regional reputation and documented hostility that places it firmly in functional sundown town territory. So it touched slightly on what I was trying to get at, but I'm gonna get the rest. I'm gonna get the rest. I'm gonna give y'all the rest. You know what I mean? So Bill Clinton, the so-called America's first black president before we had a half black president, right? Slick Willie, he's from Mena, Arkansas. There's a documentary. It might be under different names, but the one I called was it was called the video that Bill Clinton doesn't want you to see. Oh, pardon me. And in this documentary, it was talking about how Bill Clinton pretty much ran that town like his own little kingdom. Now, the how it mentioned references to being a possible drug trafficking hub. This documentary says it was definitely a drug trafficking hub. It says that it definitely was um, an individual by the name of Vince Foster who was heavily involved in these drug trafficking activities. And it was also talked about in the documentary how it was this drug money that funded Bill Clinton's run for governor of Arkansas. Once he became governor and became further involved and entrenched in these activities and working with individuals such as the pilot, whose name escapes me. I don't know if it was not Bobby Seale. I can't think of the damn name. But this pilot, there's a movie with Tom Cruise where Tom Cruise plays this pilot who was a drug runner who got arrested, and rather than go to prison like they do to white people that give them the pass, and they let him be an informant working for the CIA, so he could still do his drug selling and still keep the money and everything, as long as he do some dirt for the CIA type shit. There's a movie. Just go on IMDb, put in Tom Cruise, and you'll see that shit. But anyway, the long and short, he was that motherfucking pilot that was always landing in Mena to drop off that coke. And I'm sure they're gonna touch on it in that fucking movie. But back to the real life side of Mena, there was an incident where, two white boys were murdered, and that's what kind of, and I ain't gonna say blew the lid off the whole shit, but it got the shit hot for them. These two white kids was playing and probably seen some shit on the outskirts of town where the little facilities and the airstrip was, and the warehouses on that airstrip. They according to the documentary, they seen some shit they probably wasn't supposed to see, and unfortunately, you know the rest. And because of that, local police that weren't on the take, because a lot of people were on the take according to this documentary, which I'm not surprised because it's already telling you it was a sundown town. Everybody working together in the purposes of white supremacy. So why wouldn't they be working together in the purposes of running a fucking drug ring out of the same little town? Come on now, put the shit together. So anyway, these people, um, it got to the point where I think the DEA, couple of DEA agents came into this town to investigate. One of them, I think, got clapped. Another one had to go on the run. Other in town and in state police officers that were trying to investigate that town got bang bang. You know what I'm saying? And then some of them had to lay low and just disappear off the map because at the time that all of this investigation was going down, Slick Willie went from being governor to president of the United States. So when we look back on history and you see individuals moving how they move, um, your boy fooled everybody. You know what I mean? The entire black community brought all of the bullshit he was selling. He come from a sundown town. He was participant in it, and more. Here's another gem on the Mena situation. Right, soon as your boy landed in the White House, his man, his best friend from childhood, Vince Foster, turns up dead not far from the White House. You know what I mean? A few blocks away, found near one of the other little big, monument tourist attraction joints. And then other people start turning up dead. Pretty much anybody who had a tie to him that could tie him directly to the operations back in Mena. Bodies started piling and popping up and all of that. If you see find the documentary, check it out. It's definitely one that you don't want to miss. I was sitting there like, damn, this shit is captivating, goddamn it. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I just had to hit y'all with that one, the sidetrack, but still it was in line with Mena. So just because these cats may be claned up, that also made me think about, and I might have to do a whole separate series tying into this shit on these outlaw motorcycle gangs, the one percenters, because a lot of them have ties to white nationalist type groups and situations. Some of them themselves, or some of the entire gangs, might be white nationalist clan based motorcycle gangs. But that's gonna be a whole other thing that I do dig into at some point down the line. All right, so just to confirm, Mena is a tier 2 functional sundown town. Reputation based exclusion sustained across generations. Near zero black population. Embedded in a regional culture with documented hostility patterns.